This week in car audio. Tune in. We'll be talking about bass, talking about chips, talking about rings. You ain't got them, zip your lip. You got a problem you haven't found, check your grounds. The show about to start. Tune in. This week in car audio. Yeah. Tune in. This week in car audio.
I wonder how many people are going
Welcome
to comment.
to This Week in Car Audio with your host, the Judge, Doug Stockton, co-hosted by the superstar, internet sensation, movie star. Looks like he's throwing the world's worth of 3Xs out there, Mr. Jeffrey Fernandez. What's up, Jeff?
Hey, what's going on? Looks like my camera froze again. Okay, there we go.
We were having issues last week.
Yeah, I think I had too much stuff open on the computer and it just like took a dump.
Okay.
Looks like it's okay now.
Let's see if I can't get the...
We'll be talking about bass.
There we go. Let's see if I can't get this thing going. So it looks like you got a show coming up, or you're click to expand. There we go. Did you guys hear that in the background?
No, what was that?
Didn't hear anything.
Okay, good. Oh, there we go. Alejandra's in there. All right. So we're waiting for people. People going to be showing up here shortly. Let me start sharing this real quick. Boom. Event share to groups. So what do you got going on, Jeffrey? Anything new coming up, or what we got doing?
Oh yeah, just right behind me here. Got a triple point event coming up Sunday, February 19th. We were actually gonna have it Sunday, February 12th. But I guess they got this football game. I don't know,
That's
game
silly.
going on that that weekend. So we're like, oh well, we got to move it. We got to move it to following Sunday. So yeah, it's gonna be at Crossfire Car Audio here in Grapevine, Texas. It's gonna be another triple point event. It's on the calendar. Check it out for all the details. dbdragracing.com.
All right. How you doing for getting your season together?
It's going pretty good. I got a couple leads on some summer shows, believe it or not. So we're gonna be jam packed during the summer. So as soon as that all works out, I'll put it online, and everybody here will be the first to know.
All right. Yeah. So I'm working. Whoa.
Whoa.
I guess my TV just shut off. There we go. Starting to get some things in here. Trying to share this to as many sites as I can real quick.
On some summer shows, believe it or not.
Whoa. Who's that? Is that me or you?
No, that was me.
Oh,
My
okay. We got some
Got
people posting in here from all the way from Barbados. Mike Roth says, "Hi, DB Don. You are the one behind Beyond Audio, right?" So speaking of Beyond Audio, we got him on here. This isn't the first time we've had him on here. And he's actually here to answer questions from you guys. He's one of the most knowledgeable guys I know as far as car audio goes. The guy's super duper smart. Our guest tonight, DB Don, all the way from Canada. How's it going, Don?
Hey, it's good. Good to be back. Thanks.
So why don't you, hold on a second, Ramos checking in here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? There we go.
Oh, where do we start? We got to cover 35 years worth?
Yes.
We only have an hour show, okay?
Basically, if you know a little bit of the history, I got into car audio very, very young. You know, starting out even before I had a license. You know, my older brother driving the shows, and of course I did the builds.
Yep.
And I fast forward a little bit, go to Mobile Dynamics, take schooling, come back, run a shop, move on from there, go on to another shop, from there actually is where I got the DB Don name. One of the other installers, he said I had a knack for touching vehicles and they would get louder. So
Magically louder.
Yeah, well, there was this one vehicle. It needed to gain about 4.5 dB, and
It just needed to.
because it was Slam Jam in Canada. That was a big thing back then.
Okay.
And they actually had $5,000 prize money for first.
Dang.
Wow.
So so it was a big event, that Slam Jam. But yeah, I spent all night, no sleep, worked on the vehicle, rebuilt the enclosure inside, did airflow changes to it, tuning changes, pulled carpet out, put in tweed. If you remember what tweed is.
Yeah. Very
And,
familiar with the tweed.
So basically created a fourth order design through the rear window of a Ford Ranger, and we gained that 4.5 dB. Actually, it was 4.7, and it was at the time it was 2 PPI Art Series 1200 watt amps on 6 15-inch jail 15-inch subs, the W1s. But that went on to be a really great great time. But yeah, that's how I got the name. Every vehicle I touched, they were like, DB Don.
Magically.
It just stuck. So
all right. So while we have them in here, I just want to mention real quick to everybody, I want to thank once again our sponsors for today's show, Puns Customs and Crossfire Car Audio. If you guys want to support the show or want to be a sponsor on here, all you have to do is send Jeffrey or myself a message, and we will get the info to you. 12 years ago now, and then there's a YouTube here that Mike Roth put up. Not sure what that's for. Probably his 15-inch Beyond Audio subs that he just posted he has.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, let's see here. So it's in the chat right here on the Facebook side. Let's see what that says. Gorilla Zoe Money Man, something or other. So I'm guessing it's Beyond Audio 15's video. That's cool. So, Don, since we do have... Oh, that's awesome. I don't know why my screen keeps shutting off. Since we do have... who's in here? Jose Ramos, and he would be the world record holder in Cyclone Demo Wall and Cyclone Demo No Wall.
Okay.
So obviously he's got some talent. Why don't you tell him about your hand in helping create that format?
That there started way back when I was pestering Wayne about Cyclone format, and he had no clue. He was on the fence on what he wanted to do. He wanted to use the RTA. He wanted something to incorporate sound control over the entire system. And I had already created a format way back in, I think it was 1994, where it was a point-based system where the lower in frequency you were awarded bonus points. I pitched that to him, and he loved it, adopted it. We kind of tweaked it a little bit, with the rest of the judges and himself, and it went on to the first, format with the RTA, and the install was included, and I think that was kind of a hit. I know you yourself were heavily involved with testing a lot of that stuff we were doing.
Yes. The cool thing about the format is when you're looking from first place all the way down to last place at an event, the difference is only 15% or so.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's
it does level the playing field. I mean, and then if you eliminate the anomalies like Jose Ramos or something out of it, then the difference is less than small single digits. Yeah. So it's actually a very good format for promoters and whatnot that aren't familiar with it, or don't. Whoa! Everybody just jumped around on me there. That wasn't cool.
You're still good here.
No, yeah, something changed on my end. I don't know what it was. Anyway, so Tyler Archer says, "Hello, friends." Anomalies. Jose Ramos wants to know what an anomaly. So the anomalies, LOL, of course, is those people that are so driven and so good at a particular style or format that they build for it, and their numbers are just insane. Not unlike Mr. Jose Ramos.
So, what also what the original idea there was for one class originally, and then it expanded into more. But we had this old CRX when we were testing the format. We had the CRX. It had a DD9512, I believe, and we were doing into the 150s at 20 hertz. The enclosure was literally the whole back end of the car, but it was keeping up with the walled vehicle, which was my old S10, and it was doing not quite at 20. I could never really peak it at 20. I got it to peak at about 26 hertz, but it was doing 57s, and the points from that car was very close to what mine was. So it kind of gave the smaller cars able, the ability to kind of match up with the bigger ones. And the best example that we're going to find of this is Team Mini.
Right. So Tyler Archer wants to know Justin Morrow's car.
Justin, no, I don't think it was Justin's. Maybe it was. I think it was actually. He had the CRX for a bit. Yes.
Okay.
I don't think we used his car in testing, so I can't go back into Term Lab or the Term Pro site and go and look at scores. This was just in the shop testing. So
Tyler says he misses the old Cyclone point system. That would be the only thing where we've changed really is the RTA. So we removed the RTA portion of it.
And the install.
Oh yeah, and the install. Sorry, RTA and install. Those two things. The install really did hurt your average SPL competitor because their install typically didn't have fuses, didn't have processors, stuff like that. And
yeah, but
go ahead.
The format isn't gone.
No.
We just if we can get enough people into demo classes, fill them up, make the brackets bulge with people.
Yeah.
I think we can get that back. So that's the motivation.
There was kind of a concern someone had brought up to me. I think when I was doing the old Cyclone way where we did the RTA, there was a guy, I think he had said he was like some world champion in a different organization, and then he didn't score as high on the RTA portion of Cyclone. Is there like a difference, or when you guys were first?
You're probably talking about Mark Eldridge, the first finals that I ran at World Finals. That's when I believe Clay took it that year.
Okay.
And Mark Eldridge.
And that was the one in Oklahoma, right?
Yeah. And Mark and I were sitting in his vehicle. We're working on the score there. And it was kind of a trial run at finals for it, which went really well. But everyone kind of got time to play on it, to learn the system.
Right.
And the biggest thing that Mark had mentioned was just the different microphones. You would literally have to tune on the same microphone to get perfect scores all the time. So he was using a different.
Right, and that's when we were using the C2, I think.
Yes, the C2, yeah.
Yep. So Team Mini jumps in here real quick, Mr. Stefan. RTA was maybe the competitors I think it means competitor, needs to make the system better. Um, so, but anyway, go on with what you were saying about Mark Eldridge and the C2.
Yeah. So, had he had more time with it, I'm sure he would have did really well. His score was very close to, I think, 400.
Mm-hmm.
And, and that was out of his race car there that he uses for his classes now.
Yeah. Tyler chimes in. The DSPs made this so much easier too.
Yes, the DSPs, the DSPs, especially the quick auto tuning DSPs, and then you just go in and just tag off any peaks that are kind of not, flagging you. And then Wayne had actually made it easier yet when the RTA system is telling you which ones to adjust.
Yes. By turning yellow or red or whatever, right?
Yeah, it goes purple, yellow, red. Yeah. And that's not a bad thing because it kind of coaches you along.
Yeah.
And in that sense, if you're sitting there and you're learning and you have a term lab, you have the RTA, and you don't know what to do, you can kind of look at what it's telling you to do, and you can adjust on your DSP and see the real-time changes.
Oh yeah. So we got our first question. Hey guys, remember the whole thing with Don today is you can ask him questions, and then obviously when you guys ask him one question, he's gonna go off because he's got way too much knowledge in all of these fields to share it all within an hour show. But we'll do the best we can. So we got a question here from Mel Valadez. Says, so DB Don, what class are you building for now?
I want to build for demo no wall, and the reason I say that is because
that's coming after Jose. Go ahead.
My challenge is time right now. I don't have the time to get in there and tear it apart and deaden. This being one problem, and then I got this hand to do, but I built Cyclone because I love that type of format, and I never really had a chance, the financial ability or the time. We're working on the time, but Cyclone demo no wall is what I would like to do. And I have this caravan.
Yeah,
everybody throws a wall in it. You look around and you think, what is something that's rarely
Jeffrey puts a no wall in those.
Yeah.
And wins championships.
Rarely done.
It's rarely done. Yeah. I think there's just so much room. They just throw a wall in it and call it quits.
Yeah.
But no wall, it makes it more challenging, I guess.
Number one, they peak at when it's sitting stock. This one peaks at 51. When you put a wall in it, they peak between 57 and 62. Right? So the challenge now is when I'm deadening it, I got to shift that peak down to 20.
Oh, you mean you're going to strategically deaden different panels to help tune the vehicle? Why would you do something silly like that, Don?
That's what I've been teaching for over 2 years.
You mean quarter wave theory and deadening to either help the wave or kill part of the wave?
A 20 hertz wave will not complete.
No, it won't. So you got to go to half wave, right? Or quarter wave.
So you go to half wave.
Yep.
So that's kind of how I've been doing things all along and teaching it. And, it's not just measure the quarter wave or half wave and just that's what you peak it to, because obviously pressure changes it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's jump over to something that's more familiar. Sixth order walls. Series tuned sixth order walls.
Hey, you and I were talking about ported horns and and sixth order walls back in like 2000.
Yes.
You and I were doing that and designing and sharing and way back in 2000.
And if you remember back then, when I was doing the small scale testing,
Right.
the best output was always when you tune the low end.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you tuned at 20 or 17 hertz. If you tune at 20, your front end is going to be tuned at.
Oh, you cut out
Or,
there, Don. Hold on. This is important. This is important information. You say
yes,
if you tuned at 20, your
if
front
you're
end.
if you're tuning at 20, now we're not even going to touch the ratios of bandpass on the airspaces. Let's just go with your, because that affects your airspace and everything else. Let's just go with resonance.
Mm-hmm.
The resonance tuning of the rear, if you're at 20, what would be the logical harmonic that would amplify 20, 40, 80, 160, right?
Right.
So your next tuning of the front opening of the series tune would be roughly that 40 hertz.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can verify that if you just go to the computer and you just throw subs in a box and say that's tuned at 20 and 40, you're going to be way off. You have to throw an impedance graph. You have to pull a graph off of it, verify the tunings. If they're on, good, but if they're off, you have to adjust.
Chad Geary popping in the chat. All right.
And
Chad who?
Chad, hey, how you doing?
Okay, so real quick, Tiffany, she's out of Bridgetown, Barbados, if you don't remember them. So she says, do your thing, Don. I have my notebook ready. Share whatever you know.
We could be here for 12 hours on
I
this one
know.
topic.
Hold on, wait. Tyler Archer wants to know about when's Beyond Audio coming back. Is there any plans for that?
Actually, I don't think I'll be bringing back Beyond Audio, but
Okay.
there was a question Jacob put out there if he should use the Inhuman name for the new 18 that he was producing.
Jacob Fuller?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he's got the I think it's a limited quantity 18-inch, and the question was put out there, should we call this thing an Inhuman?
Okay. And
That was a line that you had, right?
No, I did not design it.
Ah.
It's just a cool name. Maybe it's kind of along that superhero type thing, and you know how the world is all superhero crazy.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it'll be a cool thing. But as far as me designing and retailing woofers, I don't think I'd do that. I have helped companies design woofers, and they've come up with my designs. But as far as my own line, I don't see it.
Yeah.
Not right now.
Yeah, I've been there with you. Done the same thing, just help people out and that's from the love of wanting to see the community grow and the technology get better, right? Because if we share what we know, it's going to make everybody better in the long run, right? Everybody you see that's that's standing tall now in the industry are standing up on the shoulders of some other giant that came before them, and just stacking it up and getting bigger and better. I fully agree with that. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. You, Don. Your turn.
The first version of the DC Neo that Clay had built.
Okay.
He got that design from me.
Okay.
So the first version, V1, the one where he has the video and it's slamming together and where he's assembling it. And so that design is done very well. And you obviously see how impressive they've been doing.
Yep.
One of the later ones that I can tell you about is the CP Audio 1200 series.
Okay.
I'm not sure if you've heard of them.
I have not.
It's a newer company, and they wanted that thing to dominate on the lows. So they sent over some product, they sent over parts, and that's the sort of thing I'll do. I'll say, well, okay, send it over, rebuild, break it, rebuild, break it, rebuild, break it, test it. 4 versions, 5 versions later, you got something you're happy with, and it turned out well, because that's the 12s that I used in the van to pull off that 44.
So
at 20 hertz.
Jose says I'm not turning it up until somebody passes 150 dBs at 20 hertz.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's what he says.
He
Whoever
doesn't
wants
have to.
demo no wall better, bring the sauce, from Jose Ramos.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely agree, because I think once the method of containing the energy that is required, I mean, you can do the math on how much energy you're putting out, but at 20 hertz, we're going to have magnitudes more than, say, 40, 60, 80.
Right.
And the amount of constant pressure in one direction on the panel, we're looking at probably several hundred pounds per door.
So just so people understand where Don's getting this from. So you look at the sine wave for a subwoofer. The lower the note, the longer the sine wave is. So it looks like this is like a 20 hertz note, say, right? Where you look at, just for instance, a 200 hertz note looks more like this. Okay, so it bounces that much. Now, when it hits that panel, if it's a long sloping, that wave has the same amount of energy as that same wave that goes like this. But when the panel's this far away, this one has used up so much energy versus this one that only looped once and then hit the panel. So that's why Don's saying at 20 hertz, you're going to have much more pressure on that panel than you would, say, at 40 hertz. Is that accurate, Don?
You're going to have the same pressure at 60 hertz as 20, but you got to include the resonance of the door.
Okay.
So the time it takes to crest and come back on a 60 hertz cycle is not as long.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have an off tuning as far as 20 hertz, let's say your door resonates at 65, 70 hertz, it's closer to resonance at 60 hertz. So that 60 hertz, the door after a few cycles might be opposite phase, so it's kind of resisting that pressure. Mm-hmm. Whereas 20, we have it's off, so it's constantly working in tandem with that wave.
So it's like an alignment kind of thing.
Yeah, and
yes.
it's
time alignment.
It's all based on resonance, complex wave, how it builds up in the cabin. And if you slow mo a vehicle playing lows, mm-hmm. you can actually see that ripple effect go from the back to the front. And I should have captured it on this thing when I had it running, because it was like tinfoil, the whole thing, stock vehicle.
Wow.
And I slow mode it, and you can actually see when the woofers come up, because they were facing up, the windows came out, but the back windows came out slightly, fractions of a second more than each panel.
Okay. So Jose Ramos says, nice to hear another builder that actually verifies tuning via impedance graphs. So,
well,
yeah,
I've been preaching that for so long, and people were like, why were you doing that? Because, well, why'd you hook all the woofers up and run them through that thing? I didn't even hear anything.
That's right, 1 watt, right?
Yes. and when you're testing with DATs, you have to be absolutely quiet. If there's airplanes going over, if there's airplanes over top, you have to be quiet. It's more accurate when it's quiet. Yep. So it's a very good tool if you remember that you're only testing at 1 watt. Those parameters change when you add power. Mm-hmm. Now you can kind of predict the change that's happening when you calculate impedance at your note, and then you go a bit off and you calculate impedance. You can kind of extrapolate the higher power shift.
Yeah.
And
So the only thing that you don't like, there's programs to help with all this, but the only thing they don't help you understand is power compression because you have a
yes,
mechanical limit to the driver. So that's
yeah,
the only thing that you can't do through a mathematical formula. The rest of the stuff you have, and not that the mathematical formula is going to be perfect for you either, but it's going to get you close enough to where now it's real world fine tuning at that point. How's that? Pretty accurate?
yep. And what I also try to tell people is when you're finding out kind of what's the limits, just find out where it breaks, back it off a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and where you can consistently, well, even consistently testing, if you can consistently test over and over and over with the same situations, giving cooling times, voltage, the more mistakes you make in a consistent testing situation, the louder you're gonna see more paths to success.
Yep. So speaking of that pressure, Jose Ramos
Yeah,
says, "Yeah, I strapped the doors with 1,000 pound strap, and it snapped mid run."
Wow.
And
yeah.
then go ahead.
There is so much energy at
Oh yeah.
that low frequency, and I was running approximately 6,000 watt to the 412s, and it was at first it was breaking like a 47.1 at 20 hertz before the panel started busting and losing SPL. But on the flip side, I could take one of those 12s, a single 12, throw it in there, and at 2,000 watts, it was already breaking a 50 at 51 hertz.
Yeah, so that's what I was trying to explain to people back in the days when when I built mine, I was running I think 412s on 2000 watts doing 56s and 58s, right?
Yeah,
It was just about efficiency and fine tuning, and that was exactly what it was, a sixth order box in 2003, right? It was a sixth
yeah,
order wall. It not a difficult system. The only problem was is as I was learning that process, so I stuck the first 15 in to get a ambient tune of the vehicle in the box because you have to tune that, right? And
yep,
yeah, that peaked at 18 hertz. I go, oh, I think the box is a little big for at 18 hertz. So
yeah,
yeah, I got that corrected, and when you start figuring this stuff out, and I was tuning the box, and every time I went up a frequency, I went up to 1 to 1.5 dB to where I got to 156 at with less than right at about 2,000 watts. I ran a 1,500 watt amp, ran it at 16 volts. So yeah, I was getting just under 2,000 watts, which was one of the biggest amps of the time. Jose says, I preach DATs and TS parameters, and it's like people actively want to avoid science based building versus someone else's rule of thumb.
you can only like the science gets the ballpark.
Yes.
The in the vehicle testing, the actual the putting the RTA in there, adding deadener, tap that panel with a rubber mallet, see where it resonates.
Yep.
Do it a couple times. For example, your roof, we're limited to X amount of deadener that you
Yep.
can fit under there before it starts being noticeable. So if you're at a point where you've added, let's say you've added, I don't know, an inch of deadener and you're still resonating at like 40 hertz and you can't add no more, stop, because 40 hertz is a harmonic of 20.
Yep. So
Don't try to push it down to the 30 hertz because 30
it's gonna
is
hurt you.
not a harmonic
Yep.
of 20.
Jose says, I'll step back and let Don explain. From the little I've watched, he might have a better grasp in order to explain. I can grasp it, but explaining it for me sometimes doesn't go the best. um, Mal Valadez was asking, let's see, where was he at? He was asking, He said, I'm going to sit back and I would love to learn from Jose Ramos. And oh, there he is. I would love to learn
There he is.
this theory from Don and Jose Ramos. And
Oh my God.
Tyler says, don't have Don teach you this in Borden Hotel 12 beers deep. So what's
Oh,
all
yeah.
that about, Don?
Oh, we used to have shows, and we would have a show, and I would specifically schedule it on a UFC night. So we would have a show.
Ah, nice.
Cyclone would be the most popular format. DB
Mhm.
drag followed by base race. We'd do the show, pack up, head to the in-laws had a restaurant / bar,
Mm-hmm.
and we'd watch UFC, drinking beers, eating way too hot of hot sauce.
Yeah.
But
So you guys stumbling home, possibly?
oh, there was one time where we couldn't drive, but we you could walk, and it was only a few blocks home.
So did
But
those
yeah.
conversations at those evenings, did they become more technical, less technical, more broad, or what were those conversations like?
God forbid we went and did some testing on those nights, because it was like, what did we test at? I don't know. Just send it.
Just send it.
Just
So,
send it.
yeah. Yeah, no, you got to have a limit when you're doing the tweaking and the testing. You got to limit it. But I remember 5-hour phone call with Mel.
Oh wow, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, he's had some work in his vehicle, I hear.
No, he
So,
actually won a championship this last year, right?
Yeah,
I think 2 years ago.
It was 2 years ago, and he traveled
But-
both to East Coast and West Coast finals to do it.
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
I
yeah.
saw that. Yes.
So that was awesome.
He's coming back this year for some titles too. He's told me so.
Nice. Yeah, I mean,
But he's an SPL guy, so I don't know if he wants to
Hard-
learn all of this.
he described, and I know he's listening, but he described the amount of work he goes through just to do one little change. And man, he will draft something, get it CNC'd just for that 0.1 or the chance for 0.1. Just like a lot of the extreme guys are doing, they're spending huge amounts of time and effort, which has to be not easy. So anyone who's doing that, hats off to you. Just keep going at it. That's, if you're online and you're just doing a copy paste box and you're trying to see what other people are doing, you're only going to get so far, because you have to understand what you're looking at, what you're doing. And a lot of people, I'm going to say, they innovate. A lot of people like to copy, but then they convert to innovators, because DB Drag is full of amazingly talented and knowledgeable people, but these people, they can look at a vehicle, they can go, that's 6 cubic feet, 36 by, they could name off the dimensions,
Right.
go home, recreate that exact thing, and have completely the wrong results. Why is that? They can have the exact same car, exact same box, and the completely different results. And the reason for that is anywhere from right down to the vehicle glue joints for the body panels. But most of the time, you can trace those differences back to resonance. If you use, let's say you used a sundown deadener, really rigid, and then let's say you went with like a Dynamat Extreme, which is the aluminum backed, asphalt, not as stiff, but it's it's a different
It's just
resonance.
density, right? That's all that one's doing, is just adding density.
Yes, or the really big one that I've seen when I've consulted, when people call, is they said, I filled my car with foam. Well, what kind of foam? What kind of foam did you use? I filled this panel. Did you use spray foam or a 2-part polyurethane foam?
Yeah.
Well, I just went to Home Depot and got some
It's got
spray
some
foam.
good stuff.
Well, that does okay if you're trying to just drop resonances, but if you're trying to change the resonance at a higher frequency, or just fill and make
Mhm.
it rigid, you want the two part. And that a lot of those little details, a lot of the new guys, they're lost because they go, well, I put foam in it, but now you're telling me this foam is better,
Yes.
you know. And
Uh,
so
go ahead.
we should be preaching the vehicle work is probably more important in the final test and tune than actually the actual product and the enclosure.
Yep. So I
If
told people all the time. I took a station wagon, a Subaru station wagon, and I was the third guy in the world to hit a 150 in street class.
I remember that,
Yeah, and with
that was a wicked one.
no, that wasn't even the wicked one. I was talking to
Oh,
you, and that's when we took a standard ported box, and we essentially folded a horn off the back side of it in the back of a station wagon.
okay.
And and I ran your subs at that. That was the first time I ran your subs or anybody had seen your subs over here in California. And all of a sudden, I had all kinds of faces glued to the back. I'm like, whoa, what the hell's this? Out of
Yeah,
nowhere, some guy that they've never seen before hits the third guy in the world to ever hit a 150. So
yeah.
um,
And another little feather in the cap for those Beyond products was, and you were with me early on in this too.
mhm.
We offered those subwoofers before anybody else had anything. You couldn't just call up and say, I needed it this color with this coil with that. I needed right 7 spiders, 4 spiders, whatever. And what they would do is they would send their install specifications, and we would actually build for that many times. I actually, on some of the people, I actually built their enclosure, and I kind of tried to mimic their installation.
Mhm.
A couple of times I actually wasted 5 to 6 soft part recones just getting it right.
Yeah,
And
and that makes sense. SQ Sounds out of Bridgetown, Barbados. That's Tristan. He says, so DB doesn't stand for decibel. It stands for Dawn and Beer. He's liking it.
Don beer.
Tyler throws in there center ports for extreme vehicles. What sorcery is this?
who's running center port? Unless you mean the center port is the console.
Well, yeah, because
Probably what that means, right?
I'm guessing that's what it means. People, I tried explaining that to some of my Super Street competitors.
Yeah.
They were, because you're limited to what is it, 2 cubic feet, Jeffrey? I think, or
Yes.
1.5 cubic feet. Is it 2?
As far as the set, like an aftermarket center
Yeah.
console, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And I was trying to explain to them that they're like, well, no, I want to just have the whole front empty. And I'm all,
Well,
not necessarily.
it can go either way on that situation, because if you're I'm trying to find a good example. Let's say Jimbo,
Mm-hmm.
right? We got 815s. It's peaking at like 46 ish. And if you put a console in there, you're not tuning that passenger side at 46. If you were to do the math, you're tuning that a bit higher than 46 on that side.
Right.
And I know Clay had experimented with it when he had the DCs, the originals, and he kind of was on the fence about it, but I think Ray has it out now and it gained. So, I mean, you have to look at each individual vehicle, because
Oh, absolutely. But
some of them, if you
how
put
hard
it
is
in,
it to take and build a a center console, especially, you got all this scrap wood from all the sub boxes you
Yeah.
built, and just build
Yeah.
a center console, try some different shapes, and think of it as a port, and see what that just might do to your cabin resonance.
Calculate how much you're never going to get it exact unless you have an extreme vehicle, but
Right.
calculate your airspace, kind of guesstimate what you need for a port above there.
Mm-hmm.
2 cubic feet really doesn't give you a lot to work with,
No.
but if you get it tuned as low as you can with a console, which usually ends up, you have like an 8-inch wide as high as you can go,
Right.
and that usually gets you tuned as low as possible. If you're tuned a bit lower, especially on the box peak in the
Mm-hmm.
rear, but in those situations, you're more likely to gain
Mm-hmm.
than if you were to have a larger airspace and a bigger passenger side. And then you got to look at airflow. That's the other aspect of the resonance. So if your airflow is correct and you got your resonance correct, you're going to gain.
So Clay said he gained with it in, and then Ray said it gains when they took it out, but also different equipment all around subs and amps.
Yes, but there was work done to the vehicle, I believe, prior to it coming out.
Mel Valadez says, yeah, calculating my fatness into the resistance equals plus 0.4 dBs.
Hey, I wouldn't laugh. Some vehicles, if you lean to the middle of the vehicle when you're doing your burp, you gain.
Yeah.
And
so that would not be allowed. If I caught you doing that would be a 0 for the run.
I've seen it.
I'm just telling you, if I caught it, it'd be a 0 for the run.
Well, just don't pass the middle, right?
Yeah, just don't pass the middle.
You could kind of lean, maybe.
No, I don't mean leaning as far as it takes to get into the passenger side.
Oh, okay.
I mean just leaning kind of over the stick shift or whatever and doing your burp.
Yeah. So
and they're
okay.
They're basically turning themselves into a boundary.
They are.
Where some of that, and you're not near the microphone or the sensor, so you're just kind of leaning over the steering, maybe beside it, and then that's what they're doing.
And Manny Lord of Bass says, that's right. Tell him, Carnal. That's right. Preach, brother.
Yeah, but as always, don't do that if you have never tested it and it's a critical run, because you just might fail. So.
Oh, you mean sometimes when you try something you lose dBs?
Yep. And the more time, like I said, the more times you fail, you discover more ways to gain.
Would you find that accurate, Jeffrey, when you were building your no-wall car and, back in those days?
We try something, then okay, it did work, then we just try something else, or just do away with it altogether. I remember we were messing with like air conditioning and stuff like that, turning it on.
Oh yeah.
Messing with the vents and opening them and closing them and So I mean, it's if it's worth trying, try it. I mean, yeah, just like Don here says, you might be able to find something else that might help. So
and
definitely just try it.
Never underestimate sitting with your vehicle open and staring at it for 2 hours to come up with an idea as a logical way to gain, because I have heard and done myself, sat there looking, thinking, envisioning the wave propagation from the box, seeing how it's gonna refract, and you come up with an idea and you sat there for 2 hours for whatever gain.
So one thing I was, I think you and I had this conversation. Like I said, Don and I have been friends for quite a few years. We've sat on the phone and had these conversations. He's actually, I believe, the one who suggested the Speaker Builders Cookbook to me, for me to start looking into that and reading into that. And I believe we actually connected on through the Deckware site. We were talking about the Wicked one and the Death Box, and yeah, it was a good basis of design, but then it wasn't complete for what we do. But it was a good general basic starting point to get a good understanding of what the potential a car could do.
The Wicked one was
Yeah.
a wider bandwidth horn.
Yep.
And we just needed it for one note.
Yes. So Jose says here, funny thing is, the 6 sub version of the Widow wanted the cabin to be completely empty, but the 10 sub version didn't care at all either way. And so that would be based on the waves. Now, when you have 10 subs versus 6 subs, you may have some cancellation happening, so that center console isn't as critical. Would that be how you would describe it, Don?
To me, that sounds like compression.
Okay.
Mechanical. So the 6, am I hearing this correctly? The 6 wanted it open.
That is correct.
So the 8
had 10.
More
10.
The 10 had more motor force for compression, therefore the load per speaker was less than the 1. So when you open up a listening environment and remove boundaries and areas where it's going to complex, screw up the wave, whenever you have less cones, you notice that you'll reach that limit where if you're forcing it to push harder in a given airspace and you open it up, it'll gain because now they actually have an easier time. So in that situation, I would probably look at how far the coil was leaving the gap, if it was, how much power was applied per 10 versus the 6. And there's so many variables there. I mean, panels flexing in phase versus out of phase. Yeah.
So right here, Tyler says, Don asked me how far the back of my wall was to my windshield, and I told him what I was peaked. He is that good. People that come to my shows, they'll tell you all the time, Jeffrey did it again to me. He popped out and messed up my whole system.
Oh, yeah. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, yeah. We're actually going through like a ice snowstorm out here in Texas right now. So, I'm surprised all the electricity didn't turn off. But yeah, sorry about that. My bad.
So people can tell you at the show. So I'll look inside of a vehicle, get a rough distance of what it is, and I'm pretty solid, and I'll tell you what your car is going to peak at by your box design versus the distance from your woofers or the back of your box, depending on what your system is designed. And I'll tell people all the time, no. They're like, oh, no, I peak at 32 hertz. I go, no, you don't. You're peaking around 43. You're peaking around 51. You're not peaking anywhere near 32.
Yeah. And sometimes they're forcing the peak lower, as in the case of Cyclone. In the case of Cyclone, almost everybody's forcing the peak to draw.
Yeah, right.
And so they're virtually not running off of resonance.
Mm-hmm.
So their ideal situation is a vehicle that doesn't move. That's basically it. If they can stop that vehicle from moving, that's going to be the best game. But if they can't stop it from moving, peak it at 40.
Good luck.
Yes.
So Jose says you explained it correctly. Tyler said, yep, he was bang on with his number. I used to, not anymore. So whatever that is. Oh, so somebody put in here, Mike Roth. He put on here, he goes, the good old home record from Deckware was cool. You know what? This brings up a thing. To be honest with you, Jose Ramos says he likes this guy. I knew you would, Jose. This is way your style of podcast tonight. You know what? I'm actually going to call Steve Decker. So I talked to him quite a bit back in the early 2000s because I was trying to understand his designs incorporate them with the stuff I learned from you. And then there was another guy down in Phoenix, Kevin Smith. I don't know if you remember Kevin Smith or not. But
Yep.
so between the three of you guys, that's what developed my knowledge of car audio. And I'll tell you right now, I use the three of you. I bounce things off of you guys. I sent you guys so many different designs. And, Steve may not even remember me from then, but I think I'm going to call him up tomorrow and see if I can't get him on the show for next week. I think he would be a very interesting person.
I remember a message from him way back on the forums. What the hell have you done? Everyone's asking me for the design.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I think I might have him on. But so once again, he would be a super technical guy. He's big in the home audio market. So, but he's one of those proponents for, no, I don't need 20,000 watts. I need 10 watts. I'm going to make you loud as hell on 10 watts. Right?
Yep.
So, but he's definitely, I'm going to see if I can't get him on here next week. That'd be really cool. Team Mini says, Don is the best assist. 3 very smart men on this program. Many of the others are in the audience. So a 48 burp machine playing 26 hertz is forcing. LOL. That was from Team Mini.
These vehicles, the best example of why Cyclone was created for those vehicles that don't have massive vans with walls, because he is so pinpoint accurate on his tunings, on the work that he puts into it, on the deadening, that he actually can hang with a lot of those big walled vehicles, like in Cyclone.
Yes, definitely.
I mean, if you have a walled vehicle that puts the same amount of effort and time and dedication into their vehicle as Steve has done, absolutely, they're going to dominate that class. But when you have a person in a smaller class, they're going to take over almost 80-90% of those vehicles in the other class.
All right, real quick, Tyler says, DB Don, the A-Team, Rip Rock, Borden Beers. I was like a sponge absorbing all the information I could. And that ain't no lie. We would literally sit for hours, like even at World Finals, and just talk box theory.
And you never ever stop learning. I mean, like I was telling you before, about 4 years ago, I began almost a comprehensive study on my own of lithium batteries.
Right.
And I had so many people asking, okay, when do I change over to lithium? And lithium prices were high back then. So I began, I was never the expert. Still, I'm not the expert on lithium. I know a lot about it. But when I started back then, you think, wow, there's so much science and technology just in the power supply.
Yeah.
Not even getting to the acoustic part, but supplying the power. There's so much science involved in that aspect that I just lost myself in the technology. And now I'm at a point where I can call the manufacturers up of these cells, and I can talk to their engineers. And we actually, originally I was like, oh my God, I couldn't even understand what they're saying. Right. And they speak English, most of them. But now when I ask them for what I'm looking for, they'll say, okay, we have this coming up. They'll send me some cells to test out. And it's at the point where now they are involving me in the discussions on some of the new technologies, like sodium ion. Have you heard of that yet? It's coming out.
Hey, I hate to do this, Don, but we're going to have to cut you short this week, sir.
Oh.
I only get an hour to do this because I got to go take old people's money. So
Okay, well, I
I
guess.
really do appreciate you. I mean, it's so hard to get you on here because of minor things going on. We,
Well,
you
my
know,
problem is when I used to do the car audio as a profession,
hmm
when I ran the install bays, when I did, 7, 8 remote car starters a day, and it would be that way nonstop for 4 or 5 months. And then
hmm
the other rest of the year, I'm building vehicles, SPL,
hmm
throw in a couple nice ones in sound queue, go back to the remote start car starters. That's what caused this.
yeah,
Not
carpal
taking
tunnel.
care, not taking
Oh.
care of my hands. And for all you guys out there that are doing installs nonstop, take us. What I'm told is take time to take care of your hands because you don't want this happening.
Yep.
And a lot of those problems are from building speakers too. So just take care of your hands.
All right. Hey, so Don, any last words, real quick, other than take care of your hands?
um, when in doubt, sit down, stare at the vehicle, and commune with it mentally.
And it
And
helps to caress it too.
yes,
Talk
yes,
to it
sit and
sweetly.
stare at
Yeah,
it.
give it a name.
The less time you spend on the internet bitching and moaning about whatever not getting louder or something not working, maybe a sub broke, and just spend more time testing. That's basically the advice, because time spent working on the build and making gains and learning more about the vehicle acoustically, electronically, that's going to reap you more than not putting the work in. So usually the people at the top are the ones who put the most work in.
All right. Tiffany says, "Become one with the vehicle." No, 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 no,
Yeah,
no, no, no.
yeah.
All right, Jeffrey. Any last words for you, sir?
No, just check out dbdragracing.com for all future events coming up in Texas here in the next few months and coming up this summer. So,
Okay. Winter Circle Car Audio. That's the first time we've seen them on here. We got to figure out what we're gonna do. We got to do something. We need to get our membership up on YouTube. We need to get our
okay.
what's it called, the subscribers.
Subscription. Yeah.
Yeah, we need to get subscribers up. So if you guys know anybody, create some fake accounts, become a subscriber, whatever. Just saying. Subscribe to us on YouTube, This Week in Car Audio. Also, what else would I have going on? I'm going to try and put a show together for next month. So for you guys that didn't know, I'm going to drop this real quick here. So the reason I had all that stuff come in last Monday was I found out I had a half sister like just a couple hours before the show.
Oh,
So
is that a congrats?
huh?
Congrats.
Yeah, it's a good thing. Family's always good. I really enjoy my family. So anyway, so I'm gonna drive down to Vegas next weekend and go meet her. So
Oh, how cool.
so yeah, so we're doing all that. And that's what happened last Monday. That I was kind of a little discombobulated, a little texting and doing some stuff. Yeah. So please subscribe to us. We need to get to 1,000 subscribers. We're not even close to that, but it'd be great if I could give us a chance to monetize that. Always remember, support those who support the things that you like to do. We got Crossfire Car Audio, Puns Customs out of Michigan, right? Or are they Minnesota?
Michigan.
Michigan, that's right. So Puns Customs out of Michigan. Support those because they support the channel. So always support those who support the things you like to do. Remember, always bring somebody with you to every event you can. I don't care if it's USAC, IASCA, DB Drag Base Wars, blah, 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 blah. Bring somebody with you. The way we grow as a sport is we got to bring new blood in. So always remember, bring somebody with you, somebody you met at a gas station. Hey, check this out. We're going to be doing a show this weekend. This is where it's going to be. This is what we do. Get people enthused. The reason the reason you're part of all this is because you love it. And there's more like-minded people that are still in this thing that love it with you. And the more people we can get to love it, the better it's going to be, the more opportunities we're going to have to share it and put us on bigger platforms possibly. I've been working for 3 years to try and put together a TV show. It's not working out. I'm trying to get something like Street Outlaws kind of thing. I've been really trying to work with that. I've talked to a couple people at different places, and my sister, she's actually in the movie business, TV show business. So hopefully that might give me a little in so people will actually listen to me and take it seriously. These are things I'm trying to do to help, grow the community. And I mean, everybody can do a little thing. The smallest thing you guys can do is bring somebody to an event. Say, here's somebody pounding. You can do base race. You can do top dog, even if you aren't loud. Right?
I have a bit of something to add to that.
Okay.
I noticed over the years, and we won't go back
in
all
the
those years,
early 90s.
No. Let's just go back even 10 years.
Okay.
Your basic common competitor person who gets into audio and competing, we're leaning more towards a DIY community, a very heavily DIY. So a lot of the topics that I think we should bring on your show are things that will bring the viewers in as well. Is, for example, I didn't get to do anything today, but regarding building your own, I seen three topics today. People complaining they want to know how to build the bars, but they have nowhere to start and they can't afford CNC, right? And then another person commented, well, they bought the cells, but the bars are more money.
Yeah.
So, and I don't say don't do DIY. I say if you're going to do it, learn how to get an idea how to do it first. But I think if we're bringing these sorts of topics, your basic reconing, making bars is simple. Reconing is, if it's soft parts, it's quite simple. Those sort of topics, if you're covering those, I think that's what's going to get you your viewers.
Okay. So,
and
what are you doing next week in case I don't get Steve Decker?
Well, I mean, I could go over what I had planned for showing some of the bars and dealing with some of the posts that are not accurate on some of them. That is one of the biggest problems with DIY is you don't have a CNC, you don't have accurate measurements. How do you deal with it? We can cover that if you want.
Okay, well, let's see if I can get Steve on here. If not, we'll do a DIY day with you. How's that next week?
No, just nobody mention acoustics and we'll be fine.
All right, guys, I got to run. I'm already late. I got to get over to the bowling alley. I got all these old people trying to give me money, and I want to take it from them. So with that being said, hey, I appreciate you, Dom, for coming in. Thank you to all the people that tuned in tonight. I really, really appreciate it. Don did an awesome job. Now he's going to show us around his dang thing again.
Oh, what is that?
That's his
is that
DIY motor? Oh, that's a Neo motor.
What is that stuck to it? There's something stuck to it.
Oh, it's a thermal electric peltier cooled motor.
Yeah. We got to stay away from stuff like that.
Don't even get me started.
I know. All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you to Don. Thank you, Jeffrey. Hope to see you guys again next week, 5:30 p.m. California time, the only time that matters. And thanks for tuning in. We are out of here. See you guys next week.